Did you know that the language you speak might change the way you see the world? Think about it. Could the words you use every day influence how you see colors, how you express emotions, or even how you understand the concept of time? This isn't just a cool theory. Scientists have been studying this idea for decades, and the findings are mind-blowing. Today, we're diving into the science of linguistic relativity, and by the end of this video, you'll see how language shapes your mind in ways you might never have expected. Let's start with the concept of linguistic relativity. This is the idea that the language you speak influences the way you think and see the world. Known as the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, it suggests that different languages shape different realities for their speakers. Imagine this. In English, we often describe time as something we can save, spend, or even waste. But in many indigenous languages, like Hopi, time isn't structured the same way. It's seen more as an ongoing flow, without a rigid past, present, or future. This difference doesn't just affect words. It affects how speakers experience time itself. Think of language like a filter on a camera. Ever used one that makes everything look a little warmer, or maybe more vintage? Language works in a similar way. It colors the way we think. Here's where it gets even more interesting. Language can affect how we see colors. In Russian, for example, there are two distinct words for blue, one for light blue and one for dark blue. Russian speakers can actually differentiate shades of blue faster than English speakers because their language forces them to make that distinction. Studies show that people who speak languages with more specific color terms can perceive subtle differences in color shades better than those who don't. So yes, language literally changes how we see the world. Language doesn't just shape how we see the outside world, it also shapes how we experience emotions. For instance, in German, there's a word Schadenfreude, which describes the feeling of pleasure in someone else's misfortune. English speakers often borrow this word because we don't have a direct translation. And then there's the Japanese concept of wabi-sabi, which captures the beauty of imperfection and transience. With words like these, speakers can more easily identify and articulate specific feelings that might go unrecognized in other languages. So if you've ever struggled to explain exactly what you're feeling, maybe you just need a word from another language. One of the most amazing studies in linguistic relativity looked at languages that use cardinal directions, north, south, east, and west, rather than relative terms like left and right. For example, some indigenous Australian languages use cardinal directions all the time, even in everyday conversation. Because of this, speakers of these languages develop an incredible sense of spatial orientation, always aware of where they are geographically. Another fascinating study looked at languages that assign gender to nouns, like Spanish or German. In German, the word for bridge is feminine, while in Spanish, it's masculine. Researchers found that German speakers were more likely to describe bridges as elegant or fragile, while Spanish speakers described them as strong or solid. It's as if the grammatical gender influenced their perception of these objects' characteristics. And here's the real kicker. Scientists are still uncovering ways that language might shape our minds in ways we haven't even imagined. So, what's the final takeaway from all this? To wrap it up, language isn't just a tool for communication. It's a lens through which we see, feel, and interpret the world. From the way we perceive color to the emotions we can identify, and even how we navigate our surroundings.